1. For some context to us moving, me and my family were moving between states with our 2 dogs. We stopped in Tombstone, Arizona, and were staying there for the night. At some point in the day, a man sitting on a bench across the street from a store stops us and says to look up to a window because you could see a silhouette of a ghost. I was the only one who didn't see it. Later on, we go to our hotel, and the next morning my brother and mom both said that they woke up in the middle of the night in a sleep paralysis and saw a figure in our room. Fast forward some. We get to our new house for a few years, eventually get a 3rd dog, and while living here, the others claim they saw some paranormal events. Some at home, some out around town, or off the side of the roads. Again, I never saw or felt the presence of anything. So finally, we're moving to our current residence. This is when I absolutely experienced something paranormal. Before I say what I felt, I'll talk about what I didn't have. Our 3 dogs weren't with us at the time. They were either at a pet hotel or at an apartment one of my parents were at due to work, and they moved here before the rest of us. I cannot recall whether we slept in our current house at this point. I know for certain that we had only just begun unpacking, and I only had my bed unpacked. We didn't have Wi-Fi. There was nothing for me to do at home, and even though I was a sophomore at high school, I didn't have my own cell phone. I hadn't even started attending my new school yet. So my parents and brother decided they wanted to go to a jiu-jitsu class. They already knew I didn't care to go, but they asked me one more time if I'd like to go just to watch. I once again declined. If I had the foresight to realize we didn't have Wi-Fi, I probably would have gone with them. I'm not too sure why my mother didn't leave her phone for me, because in my older houses this was something that happened a few times. It was already pretty late in the day. Alright, to the story. I'm now home alone, no dogs, no entertainment, no Wi-Fi, no phone. Well, I had a 3DS, but not my charger. I'm playing games for a bit when I notice it's about to die. Realize I left my charger in the car. My fun is now over. I can't recall what I'm doing, but for about 10 minutes I'm slowly getting bored. Something starts to feel off, but I brush it off as being in a new house all alone. It was a very quiet night. I was sitting on my bed listening to the echo of the highway a few miles out. Normally, I can't hear it when the AC is turned on, but when it's turned off and dead quiet in my house, I can hear it. So the only things I can hear is the echo of a distant highway and the gentle ringing of oncoming tinnitus. Then I hear a footstep. It sounded like someone was walking on carpet. There's just this distinct noise to it. The door to my room was wide open, but even if it was closed, I would have heard the footstep. And even if I did close it, I couldn't lock it. Every doorway in my hall was open right now. I'm sitting there, frozen in place. What felt like a minute goes by, and I hear another footstep. It's undeniable that I'm hearing a footstep. I slowly start to stand up and very cautiously make my way to the bathroom. When I walk out into my doorframe, the feeling that something is wrong starts to flood into me. I don't move at all. I'm just standing there waiting, when I hear a 3rd footstep. I quickly dart for the bathroom across the hall and close the door, locking it. For a few minutes, I don't hear anything. Then I hear another footstep. This time, it immediately gets followed up by another one, then another. I can roughly tell where it is, and I can hear it walk up to the bathroom door. At this moment, I was convinced that there was someone in the house. For the next few minutes, there would be quick bursts of footsteps as if someone was speed-walking between rooms, stopping for a minute, and then moving to the next room. Sometimes it stopped in front of the bathroom door. It was like a louder, constant movement. This goes on for a few minutes. I knew that if there was a person in my house, I probably couldn't fight them off. For some reason, I decided to say, "Go away," the next time the footsteps came up to the door. At this point, I was getting annoyed while still very scared. There was a prolonged period of silence before it moved to another room. It comes back, and I go, "You better leave right now." Silence. It moves to another room. The final time I say something, I say, "Leave me alone," and it goes away. I could still hear it moving around the hall and going to the different bedrooms, but it seemed to have stopped waiting at the bathroom door. It also was back to slower footsteps, as if someone was trying to be quiet. Eventually, the footsteps walked away and sounded like they went somewhere else in the house. I quit hearing them for the remainder of the night. I was too scared of what happened, so stayed in my bathroom. Overall, I think I heard someone walking about for 45-ish minutes. When my parents came home, they were gone for about 2.5 hours. I explained what happened, and we checked the entire house, after which everyone claimed it must have been a ghost. They were all surprised at how shaky I was and that I looked pale. To this day, I'm still skeptical on what really happened. Never witnessed or heard anything paranormal like this by myself prior. For the past few years living here, others in my family have experienced and seen things, even footsteps. I haven't had any more encounters. 2. Okay, so last year in December, my grandfather's wife, 68 female, passed away. We have no idea how she died, but my grandfather was arrested because they think it was a murder and suspected him. 2 days of him being kept in a cell, they released him on bail, and his court was due in May. However, on the 14th of April, my grandfather, 72 male, passed away. Recently, my mother has been going to his house to clean it out and to store anything that was valuable in her place, which she stored in the old guest room that she has in her house. Anyway, when she was separating his valuables, she found his dead wife's valuables, and because she didn't want anyone breaking in and stealing her stuff, she also took her valuables and stored it in with Granddad's stuff. That was my first time staying over at my mom's since my grandfather's death, and I noticed something wasn't quite right, but I couldn't think what was wrong. But I do know someone was watching me. Well, that's what it felt like. When I brought it up to my mom, she said she felt the same thing when she was checking out Granddad's place. 12 hours had gone by and my mom fell asleep on the sofa, so I turned all the lights off. When I went upstairs, I heard something move in the guest room, where Granddad's stuff is stored. For some reason, my brain kept saying, "Don't go in there," and I suddenly had a feeling that someone was watching me. I tried ignoring it, and went back downstairs and turned the downstairs lights off. When I sat in the chair in the dark, looking through my phone, I felt like someone was stood right beside me. Still feels like it now as I'm saying this, and I suddenly heard footsteps in front of me, which were that loud it woke my mother up. My anxiety shot up. My mother told me to turn my flashlight on for my phone, so I did, and she said, "Did you hear them footsteps?" And I said I did. We then heard footsteps and movements in the kitchen. But now I'm trying not to freak out because I know ghosts can feed off energy like that. I asked my mom if she can hear the footsteps, and she said she can. All of a sudden, our cat, who was led in front of my mother, was staring at the doorframe and moved its head like it was following something. We then heard someone breathing, which creeped my mom out, so she shut her eyes and said she's going to get to sleep. At this very moment, I can feel like someone is watching me. And getting told since I was younger that I got a third eye, as when I was little I was known to see a hunchback in shadows from the age of 4 up to now. I know something is in this room. It's watching me right now. I do know before Mom moved into the house, an old man passed away where my brother's room used to be, And when my brother used to stay in that bedroom, he always remembered when he felt like someone was suffocating him, and felt someone physically slapping him. It happened every night, which caused him to sleep on the couch. When I slept in there, the most I've ever gotten was seeing a hunchback black shadow by the door and hearing things getting dragged. But the activities died down when I and my brothers moved out. So I'm not quite sure if it's my grandfather or his wife who is haunting. Or the old man. 3. I need to know what's lurking in my basement. It's such a strong and heavy feeling most of the time, especially at night, and in certain areas of the basement, the corner by the furnace, the laundry room, and another room that I use for storage. It definitely gets around, and it's hard to sleep at all in the night because of such an unsafe feeling. My experiences have been 1. Always feeling like something's on my back chasing me when I walk through the laundry room. 2. One day having a patch of darkness try to follow me up the stairs. I turned the light on and it disappeared. It definitely wasn't the normal shadows that I'm used to seeing on the stairs. 3. I woke up and went back into a light sleep where I had a dream where I was approached by a cat. It was fine, then got all puffed up like cats do when suddenly scared. And then it jumped at me, but was really jumping at the direction my back was turned in the real world. When I woke up, I immediately knew that I had to turn. I feel the cat was giving me a warning of something. Like if I hadn't had it, something might have happened. I'm not overly religious, but I was raised Christian and wear an angel wing necklace my parents got me, and a part of me wants to believe that's what kept me safe, as is believed to be a sign among many, protection. 4. Another night or morning, I woke up in a somewhat sleep-paralysis state. I've had it many times, mainly as a kid, but during those my body wouldn't move and breathing was hard. Nothing appeared. However, this time something did. I could look around, but the rest of my body wasn't moving. I had an insane sense of danger, and as I looked at the end of my bed, I saw something. It wasn't a scary demon. It was a fictional character from a video game. He didn't turn around, though. He just stared at the wall. Later, after I woke, I realized that danger was in fact coming from that form I saw. It took my guard down by appearing as something I trust, since this character was a good guy in the game, I guess. And also what it was probably staring at was a saint pendant I had hanging on that wall. 5. Most recent experiences happened yesterday. I had a mystic friend over. I'm not too knowledgeable about it myself, and he could tell right off the bat. He couldn't tell what it was, just that it's been there a while, and has deep roots, some of which begin in the laundry room and that storage room, so my feeling was right about that. However, when looking for roots, he said he was basically poking a stick at it, and honestly I believe it, because last night I was literally running out of that house. It was pissed, becoming super active, causing creaking sounds. Nobody but me was home. And overall, that heavy feeling. What finally set me to grab my stuff and leave that house was more noise than a glimpse of something in the corner by the furnace. As I was grabbing my stuff, my phone connected to my Bluetooth speaker, and that was a mistake. The sudden loud music scared me more, and I believe it saw that as an opportunity to make a move. This feeling I can't describe came over me, and I was horrified, and I ran. I left my bedroom light on, and was out of there. I did turn my bike around and braved the basement to turn the light off after I calmed down a little. But it was still extremely pissed and chased me out of the basement. I decided to stay at my brother's until it calms down in the morning, hopefully. Another experience I thought I'd mention comes from my brother. He rented that basement before me. My brother woke up and had a form appear to him. It had taken the form of a woman this time, and if I remember correctly, he said her face was terrifying. He was sleeping in what would become my storage room. I just wanted to write this somewhere. Any suggestions or ideas of what's in my basement would be appreciated. I just want to be able to sleep without this constant feeling of fear. 4. Starting when I was a child, maybe ages 6 or 7 and on, I've had paranormal experiences. At least what I would call paranormal experiences. My earliest memory being a thing or man that stayed with me constantly. I was never hurt or touched by this entity that I can remember, but I always knew that it wasn't something positive. When it first started to appear, I would wake up every night at 3 a.m. for no apparent reason. Sometimes I would fall back asleep, and other times there would be 1 to 5 pitch-black figures standing around my room. All the figures would face towards me and just stand there towering over me. Mind you, I'm in elementary at this time and terrified. I generally would get up and sprint to my parents' bedroom. However, I distinctly remember one night that I woke with them there and could not move. I felt like my shoulders were held down and all I could do was watch them watch me. I just had to lay there until I was able to fall back asleep. Anyway, the spirit or entity following me was what I believed to be a man, or masculine. I was asked to describe him to a therapist as a child and remember saying he was completely featureless, but he wore something like a trench coat and an old farm-like brimmed hat. Everyone in my family knew about the entity and I'd come to call him Sid. My mom would remark about activity in the house, even when the rest of us weren't home. One night, again around 3 a.m., everyone in the house was woken by 3 loud bangs, which sounded like smashing a cookie sheet on the counter with a hell of a lot of force. My mom bolted to mine and my sister's room to check on us, and of course we were both terrified, but it wasn't us. My room was the first in the hallway, and I know that sound came from the kitchen where the basement door is. We never got any explanation of that occurrence aside from the assumption of Sid. Around this same time, I began having a recurring nightmare of me being in the house we lived in at that time. It started with me standing in the bathroom, which had one door to the hall, one to my parents' room. As I looked in the mirror, the door to my parents' room slammed on its own. Scared, I went out towards the living room where my family was. When I realized something was wrong, my dad was yelling for everyone to get out and ushering the family out the back door. When I crossed to the kitchen, I got to the back door through the living room. I had to pass the open-door basement. Something pulls me towards the basement and I find myself at the top of the stairs looking down. At the bottom of the stairs I see him, glaring at me with a feature I've never seen on him before. Eyes. Red fucking eyes. The moment we meet each other's stare, he let out a growl that I've only ever heard on one of the Paranormal Activities movies. It was blood-curdling. At this point in the dream, I feel I have no control of my body, and I lunge directly for him. Then I'm jolted awake. I say it followed me because it was a presence I constantly felt. At times it was like he was directly over my shoulder. I can't pinpoint directly when it stopped, but I'd like to think it was shortly after we moved away from that house. Any thoughts, insight, or similar experiences are more than welcome. Thank you for listening. 5. Before I explain, I've experienced 2 paranormal events when I was younger that I never shared with anyone, as I always loved horror movies and had a ton of nightmares. I knew no one would believe me, so I never said anything to anyone. Eventually, when the paranoia went away, I brushed it off as imagining things. In 2020, I woke up to 3 deep scratches along my stomach right after a nightmare, where I was running away from a demon. I thought I did it, but I realized I had just cut my nails the night prior. Also, it was only 3 marks, so it would have been 4 if I did it. They scarred for about a year, which is weird considering it felt like a scratch but burned a lot. I confided in a close friend who gave me a Bible, and I didn't experience anything unusual until recently. I moved to a new country and a brand new apartment. For 6 months, I haven't experienced anything. My husband came for a visit for about a few months and left. A few weeks ago, we were video chatting on my laptop, and I woke up feeling unusually paranoid. It was 3 a.m. and I went on my phone to pass some time until I was tired. He was asleep on the other end. It was around 3:30 a.m. when I got off my phone and put on my sleeping mask. Then my TV turns on at full volume, and I started screaming my husband's name to wake up because I was terrified. I was hoping I just laid on the remote, but my heart dropped when I saw it was about 10 feet away sitting on a blanket. Coincidentally, when I ran to turn on the light and went to grab the remote, it was on the floor and it fell off the blanket. There were no gusts of wind or anything to cause it to move or my TV to turn on at full blast. I was crying and my husband was trying to calm me down, but I couldn't. I've been staying at my coworker's house since, grabbing my clothes or necessities during the day. I noticed my other TV would be on, so I unplugged it. A week ago, my friend finally came from where I used to work and stayed with me for a few days, so I decided to go back. We watched movies all day and night. I didn't have my Bible on me, as I left it at my coworker's house, but I felt great that I wasn't alone. For the first 2 nights, everything was fine. I would wake up at 2 a.m. to get water, and had weird vibes, but nothing happened. Last night I had fell asleep on the couch, and my friend paused the TV for me, and fell asleep in the same room. My husband was on the phone with me video chatting as we were asleep. I had a nightmare that I had a baby, and there was a fan in my room. The fan suddenly turned on its own, and I was so angry that I screamed at whatever did it to leave me the fuck alone. In the nightmare, I knew I wasn't supposed to address it or respond to it, but I was so angry. Then I woke up to tapping. It was on the wall behind my head, like someone tapping their nails on the wall, one finger at a time. Like when someone is sitting at their desk and impatiently tapping their nails on the desk, but it was right behind my head. My eyes were closed when I heard it the first 2 times. When I opened my eyes, I heard it 2 more times. Looking over at my friend, as I heard the last one do it, more slower. I yelled out their name, and they eventually woke up confused and annoyed. I looked at my phone to check the time, and it was 3:33 a.m. on the dot. I don't know how they did not hear it. My husband asked what was happening, as he woke up from me yelling and upset. I explained what I heard, and they both said it was probably nothing. I know I heard very inhuman taps along the wall, with dead silence in the house. I didn't go back to sleep that night, and now I'm back at my coworker's house sleeping with my Bible in my arms. I'm at a loss right now. I'm either going crazy or something is fucking with me at night. I'm a full-grown adult who feels scared to be alone in the middle of the night. I feel like a child, and I honestly, at this point, want to be left alone. I already suffer from depression and anxiety. What can I do to get rid of this once and for all? And why is this happening at 3:33 a.m.? Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Paranormal Stories, episode 281. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. I'd appreciate it if you give the video a like and you shared it around any place you could share it. So basically, take the link in the top and post it on your Twitter feed if you're comfortable doing so. It is very helpful. Or the Facebooks. Let's make Facebook useful for something. Okay, let's see. We are on the day of fry, so I should probably fry something today. Oh no, I'm trying to be healthy. I was slightly unhealthy yesterday and I had a very tiny chocolate bar. It's one of those new Mars things. Well, there's Mars, Snickers, and Galaxy. They're made with fruit and nuts. It was actually not bad. So maybe no fried food today. I should possibly have vegetables. I guess I could fry the vegetables. Or at the very least roast them. That's like frying, but different. Okay, let's see. we will do a stream tomorrow. I don't know what. You see, there's a game I've been thinking about buying, but I know I shouldn't buy it. But Steam's got its summer sale on right now, so they've got it back on at a good deal and tempt me, and the bastards is what they are. It's a new Sherlock Holmes game, so if I get that, we'll play that on Saturday. If not, we'll do something else, just to have something on the screen while we chat, really. It lets me spend time with you guys. Lets me just take time to chat with you and let you know how much I appreciate you. Okay, now before we leave, we're going to have Hellfreezer's question of the day. Okay. And today's question is, if you had the opportunity, if we were technologically advanced enough to leave this planet and set up a colony on another planet, and you wouldn't have to worry about food or paying bills and electricity or anything like that, you'd all be working together to make sure you can generate power, and you'd grow your own food and all that sort of thing. That's all taken care of. You're part of a community, and you're building essentially a new world. Would you want to go? Personally, as long as I could take my entertainment with me, my audiobooks, my TV shows, my movies, and still had a way of getting new ones transmitted over, whatever would pass for an internet in that situation, I'd possibly say yes. It would mean, however, there'd be no more Hellfreezer narration videos. That would be the only downside. Unless I can find time to make them in between, planting carrots on Mars or wherever. But would you like to try it? So, let me know what you think in a comment below. Are you an astro trailblazer? Okay. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.